Nicole. What's crack-a-lackin'?
Oh, I'm so excited for this conversation. Today, we're going to be discussing all things mindset and boundaries. Two things that have been coming up a lot lately.
I know when Nicole and I were discussing kind of like what we wanted to talk about today, these were two things that we're working on in our own life right now, like this past week and maybe past month. And we've learned some really cool stuff and put some really cool stuff into practice. And we wanted to share with you guys because you might find value in this. I know we have. So,
yeah.
So Nicole, okay. So when you're spiraling out of control, Nicole.
Yeah. Because it's been a week, it's been a week, a month. It's spiraling.
When we're recording this, today's the first day of fall. And for those of you who believe in retrogrades, not everyone does. We just got done with one. And then if you don't believe in retrogrades, totally cool. There's just times in life where it just becomes this question of how many times in a week can I be tested?
Yeah. And you might not even want to ask that because then the universe is like, hold my beer. Watch this.
Come on up. Step on up. As Nicole and I were discussing, like when we're running, like when you're out of control, what is the thing that brings you back?
Oh, yeah. So yesterday, I don't know, like out of control, like I had like this overwhelming moment yesterday. Typically, I have a house full. There's 6 of us that live here. Someone's always in this house. Well, yesterday, everybody was gone. And I came home and I just sat in the stillness of my house, sitting in my, like just on my stairs. Like I just sat down and I just took a few deep breaths and it was like the most peaceful that this house has been. And I just started sobbing. Like I was sobbing. I was ugly crying. And I was like, I don't know what is going on right now, but it was like this release that needed to happen from a place of very deep sadness that I have been really kind of battling, all while trying to simultaneously be excited about the new things in my business and in my life. And, this podcast, I'm like, just so many things to be grateful for. But there is like this level of sadness from this hole that keeps getting deeper and deeper as far as the things that I feel like get put on my plate. That spiral of out of control is what it feels like. It feels like I can't dig myself out. And
I love that. Yeah.
It feels like shit. If I'm being honest, it feels awful. And so really trying to sit there when in those moments, whenever I catch myself and I'm like wanting to just check out, and I mean, check out, like get on social media or, like just not be present for my family or for myself. I really have to try to be aware of those feelings because in that moment, that's when I look at my 3-year-old as she says, Mommy, I just want you to play with me. Okay, I can do that. What do you want to play? Like, okay, what do I need to do to make what I'm doing more fun? What do I need to do for myself right now to find some peace, some joy, whatever it is? And then very typically, whenever I find that I feel really out of peace specifically, it is my big red flag. It's like my big reminder, my neon sign that says, hey, you need to check some of these boundaries that you may have been lax on. You're letting things slide. And sometimes those boundaries are not with other people. They are with myself. Staying up till 2 a.m. on TikTok. Why? Because I know it's not good for my mental health. I know it's not. So maybe I need to check myself. So the boundaries that are out of whack are not always with other people. It's not because I'm just letting people walk all over me. It's because I'm not holding myself accountable. That's where I find, us being able to look to see what our red flags are, what our neon signs are in these feelings so that we can stop where we're at and say, okay, hold on, where do I need to reassess? What is it for you, Anna? Like, how does that show up for you?
You know what? So I love that we're talking about this because it's a conversation. This boundary thing has come up multiple times this week. And I was just having this conversation in the car with my kids who are like preteen girls. And we were talking about how boundaries are sometimes self-boundaries, right? Like in the personality type that sometimes I put too much on my plate and then it gets to this level where my peace is gone and I can't handle that peace. I'm to the age now where like I have to have my peace, Yeah. When I was younger, I just didn't care. I'd barrel through. But as I've gotten older, early 40s, I have decided peace is like a big thing in my life. So I love that you mentioned about the peace for the self, because I think when we think of boundaries, we automatically think that it's always someone else that is like invading our space or like tormenting our life or whatever it is, right? But like self boundary for me is huge. And I know when like this week I felt a few different things. Like I felt defeated, I felt envious, and I felt sadness, like all three of those like kind of heavier emotions throughout the week. And I immediately thought, where in my life are my boundaries off? And I looked through my calendar, I looked through my to-dos every day, kind of just replayed back what my week had been like. And it was myself. Like I had said yes way too much. We're women too. Like we think we want to fix everything and we think we want to like save the world. And sometimes we just have to say that's not our part. I think God shows us all these different universe, whatever you believe in, all these different opportunities and things, but we don't have to grab every single one. And I sometimes grab a lot. And so I have to go back and like say, nope, that's not for me. Nope, this, that. So there's that part of it. But then there's also the boundary that I encountered this week where my husband and I'm going to be super real right now. We have some friends that choose a good amount of drugs and alcohol in their life. And I don't judge those friends. I love them dearly. But I also know that I have to keep them at arm's length. They can't be like in my close inner circle because I find our marriage starts suffering, our relationship with our kids starts suffering, our family time. So there was a couple instances this week where some of those friends got a little too close. And so I had to step back and realize like, oh man, like my boundary's a little bit off right now. I love that we're talking about this because I was trying to explain this to my kids in the car that you can still love someone so deeply and so true and so hard if they have some type of an addiction, right?
Yeah.
But they don't have to be like right here in your everyday life. They can be like out here. And it doesn't mean the love is different. It just means like the amount of time that they're in your life is different, right? So that's where I'm at this week. We've had some good
That's
tests
funny.
on the boundaries.
I've had a very similar conversation with my 19-year-old. In the idea of you can love people from a distance. You can still love them. You can root for them. When they call you with something exciting, yes, man, that's awesome. But hanging out every single day, getting intertwined in their things that are going on, you don't have to do that. It doesn't mean that when you see them as you walk past and you run into them somewhere that you're rude. It doesn't mean that you're not. Hey, man, how is it? How good to see you. Just so good to see you. How are you doing? And then you keep it moving. And you still love them, you still care for them, you still want the best for them, but you cannot necessarily get intertwined with everybody's stuff because it does keep you from your peace. And I know that probably one of the most important things to me right now is my personal peace. And if that means that my husband gets upset about something, he's going to get over it. We have a pretty good relationship in that he kind of gave me a pass on something like 2 years ago. We were having a conversation and I said something along the lines of like, I don't know how to deal with it whenever you're upset. Like when you're upset, I feel like I can't deal with your negative emotions. And he goes, wait, like you have a hard time telling me no. And I was like, absolutely. I say no to you, you throw a fit. And then I feel like an asshole and I feel guilty and I feel like I need to make it better. It's this whole thing. And he goes, oh, no, you shouldn't do that. Don't feel bad for telling me no, because I don't feel bad telling you no ever. And I'm like, duly noted. Thank you so much for that pass. And so now whenever I see him starting to get upset about something that I would normally be like, concede, I'm going to compromise. I feel like I'm always the one compromising. I'm like, you know what? No, I'm actually not. I'm going to sit over here and I'm going to stay in my peaceful bubble and let him go have his fit somewhere else. I don't give a damn. Like, I love you. He'll get over it the same way that he knows I'll get over it whenever I'm upset. You know what I mean? It's not this lack of caring. I'm going to protect my peace. And as long as everybody in my house is healthy and safe, they can go ahead and be a little disappointed sometimes. But I'm sitting here trying to teach my daughters who are 4 and 7 that they don't have to compromise. Like, you don't have to do this because you're afraid somebody's not going to like you. You don't have to do this because you're afraid that you're going to disappoint somebody. Like Glennon Doyle has a chapter in Untamed and where she talks about this, telling her 12-year-old daughter about, wait a second, you don't want to do this, but you don't want to disappoint your brother. No. Like, you don't ever like sacrifice yourself to not disappoint somebody else, especially me as mom. So how do I teach that and not be doing it? How do I show them this? Like, that's how they're learning. So I have to like sit there and put myself first and not feel bad about it and hold myself accountable to the things that I want, knowing that I always bet on me. I always show up for me. And that means having a steady bedtime. It means waking up at a certain time. It means doing my meditation, doing the things that I know that work for me. Those things may be very different for you, Anna. They may be very different for the people listening. But I really encourage those of you listening, to get some form of a routine, even if your routine is that it's not a routine. I had a client who really quick said, well, I can't do like the same meditation every single day. She's like, one day I will do yoga, one day I will do a meditation. I'm like, then that's your morning routine, is that you get all of these little tools to pick from every morning, but you're going to pick one every single morning and you're going to do it, whatever your thing is, to help you in keeping your peace and grounding yourself and keeping yourself accountable.
I also think that boundaries and the peace and like all of that stuff like is definitely the highest level of self-love that you can show.
Yeah.
I've learned different things about self-love as I've gotten older. And when I was younger, that word disappoint was like a freaking curse word in my house. Like, I have the most amazing mother in the entire world.
Yeah, you do. You
but
really
she
do.
doesn't, but yeah, she's totally cool, right? But
I
she
love
does
her.
not, even to this day, she does not disappoint people. And so I kind of adopted that also, that you don't disappoint and you just work really freaking hard. Sometimes when your body's like giving out, you just work hard because like that's what you do in order to like serve others and impress people. And that's something that I've had to totally unlearn. It's not a bad thing because I see it as a gift that she's given me, because I wouldn't be where I am today without the hard work that I've already put in.
Yeah.
And feeling disappointment, right? So now the hardest thing to get over sometimes, especially for someone that's a recovered people pleaser, is disappointment. But disappointment's one of those things that after you're over it, you have this level of power that you're like, ooh, it's like, ooh, I took back my power a little bit. Like,
Yeah.
ooh, that feels really good. Like, and I have this belief too, that it's not that we get more power. I honestly believe we were born with all the power and everything that we need in us. But it's almost like when we show ourselves love, and the more self-love that we give ourselves, the more of that power starts emerging out of our body. We're like, woo, like we're just about this shiny, big, bright light. And I think boundaries does that. I think peace does that. I think ultimately like loving yourself, like, man, that just,
I think that like my angsty teenager and my like 4, 5, 6-year-old self, they need to see me put them first. Does that make sense? Like,
yeah,
those versions of me are sitting here in the back of my mind going, seriously, you still can't put us first? All those times that I compromise, that I give in, that I don't have good boundaries with other people. So that adversely affects so many things. Being mindful and having a mindset of, I'm going to routinely check myself the same way that I'm so quick to point out what my husband's doing wrong. You know what I mean? Like, or my kids, or how they left something out. I need to hold myself accountable in the same way and say, hey, hold on, sis. You're going to bed too late. Get off of TikTok. Stop waking up and looking at your phone the second you wake up. Please, for the love of God, stop, because it sets the tone for a chaotic day for me. I've noticed it. Now that I'm aware, how many more mornings am I going to do this before I actually take action and just say, no, I'm going to go straight into the meditation. I'm going to go straight into some body movement. I'm going to like drink a glass of water. Like, can I do any of those things before hopping on social media, please? So,
especially when you talked earlier in the conversation about, we go through all these really hard moments in life, and the one that survives is the one who has put time and work and effort into their mindset. And so Nicole's been talking, the past few minutes about discipline, and I've been talking about self-love. And the thing with discipline is it's just this level of self-love that gives us a different mindset, right? So for me, when I'm going through something really hard, or I'm going through an emotion that does not feel desirable, it's my mindset that gets me to the next phase, right? It's first allowing that emotion to actually happen and feel it, because I think sometimes, most times, as humans, we want to push down emotion, or we want to suffocate it, or we want to pretend it's not there. But it's like, you have to feel it. We're meant to feel, like we're feeling beings. We're meant to feel.
yeah.
So I think allowing ourselves the grace to feel whatever we're feeling. But then from there, it's like, after you feel it, whatever certain period of time that you need, you have to rely on your discipline, right? Like, you have to rely on those habits that bring you back to peace and to center. You mentioned some, right, Nicole, like meditation, and
Yeah.
you do hypnotherapy, like
Yes.
we do coaching, all that kind of
And
stuff.
I listen to it. Like, I listen to
Yeah.
hypnotherapy. I listen to, I go back through coaching notes from former coaches that I had.
I think for me too, I depend like very heavily on my morning routine. And when I'm out of peace and out of bounds, just feeling a wacko, first thing I look at is like, what is happening on my morning routine? Am I doing all the things that like fill my body up before I grab my phone or grab the email or get my kids ready? Or like, what does that look like? Because usually when that's off, my whole life's off.
So really quick, can
Go
you
ahead.
do our listeners and our viewers a little favor and tell them just briefly, what is your morning routine? Because your morning routine is phenomenal. You get done with an entire day's worth of stuff by 7 a.m. It's quite impressive. And I know that whenever I've utilized some of these techniques, I know I always feel better. Always. So you want to share it?
Yeah, sure. What the heck? I mean,
Okay.
here we go. I get out of bed, I roll out of bed, I have my gym clothes already ready at the end of my bed, my shoes are there, and then my husband and I get up, we throw our clothes on, and we like don't even really talk to each other because I've realized since I get up super early with him, like around 4:30, I'm not the nicest human. So we just don't talk for a minute. Like I grab my coffee, throw my clothes on, and we head to the gym. And then we usually do about an hour workout. And then I go for a walk on my own. I put my earphones in, and depending on where I'm at in that day, I'll listen to all different types of stuff from sermons all the way to like hypnotherapy. I know you're not supposed to do that when you're walking, but I do. I
Oh,
listen
that's
to
good.
meditations. I listen to rap music. I mean, guys, it's all over the place. I just ask myself, I put my earphones in, what does she need today? And then I just like bust out whatever I need. And then after my walk, I come back to my house and I sit out in my yard, whether it's raining or not, or sunny or cold, whatever it is. I sit outside and I do my gratitude journal and I do prayer. I read the Bible. And so I do all of that before I step back into my doors at my house. And then as soon as I get into my doors, like I'm mom and wife again. So I have to, be ready for the day. So those are the things that are my go-tos. Like I have to do those. I was just having this conversation. This is so great we're talking about this because I was in a group of women today and we were talking about that the world is spiraling like wildly crazy around us. Okay.
Yeah.
And there's so many things and hats that we wear as women. And sometimes, we can get really caught up in the nasty of life. And I know for myself, when I've been caught up in the nasty, it's because I've chosen not to put myself first in the morning. Today, I had one hell of a day. Today has been a little bit crazy. But you know what? For some reason, I feel like I can totally handle it. Okay, this is too much information, okay? But like the week before my period, I'm like a disaster. I can't think, I can't put thoughts together. I'm just like,
same.
I'm looking at Nicole here earlier and I'm like, what are we talking about? And she had to tell me like 4 times. You know what I mean? Like I'm scatterbrained, I'm all over the place. But when I start my morning off with myself first, I feel like I can hold and handle more, like I can hold a lot of the emotional stuff throughout the day that I can't always hold when I don't prep myself. So
Yeah. I started mine yesterday. So, now I feel like I got my brain back a little bit, just a little, just a little, because that like 10 to 14 days before, I'm like, wait, what's my name? What am I doing? Huh?
you guys, this is hecka funny. We did some recording stuff for social media before this, and I think it was 2 times she said her name, but then she forgot her what she does.
Yeah.
And she was just like staring into the camera. And I'm like, Nicole, you're a hypnotherapist and a coach. Like
those are going to be on a blooper reel. Just look for that coming soon. Oh, yeah. And here I am saying, no, I'm better because it started yesterday. I'm better. But you should have seen me 3 days ago. Couldn't formulate a sentence. It was like, it was a little scary. So, yeah, I'm glad that I'm back slowly.
So, Nicole, if we're going to leave them with anything today, we've talked about some really good stuff. We've talked about boundaries. We've talked about mindset. We've talked about peace and self-love. And we've talked about discipline and morning routines. We've kind of covered a lot in the past, 30 minutes.
Yeah.
What do you want to leave them with today? Like, what do you think is the most important thing to keeping your peace?
I think checking in with yourself routinely throughout the day. Ask yourself, what do I need right now? Right now, what do I need? You can also ask yourself things like, how can I make this fun? And then change your verbiage to, instead of I have to I get to. I get to take my kids to school today. I get to go to the grocery store and get delicious food for our family. I get to go to this business meeting. I get to go to this meeting that could have been an email. I'm really excited about it. Like, it's all about changing the mindset, but really asking yourself those questions.
I love the ask. And I think what I want to leave everyone with is the ask is like definitely the most important part. But I think the part of like the listening is huge. So you hear it, you know, every moment of the day what you need, but it's the moment where you decide to make the decision to actually do that thing, right?
Yeah.
Like we can listen, we can hear all that we want, but until we actually stop and say, like last week when I said, no, I haven't been saying no. Like I'm not even listening to myself right now. I'm so scatterbrained with everything else happening around me. I'm not even listening to her inside of me say, like, Anna, a freaking enough. So I think I want to leave everyone with that is that ask the question, but also listen to what's coming back
Yeah.
and decide, am I going to do that or am I not? Like,
Oh, I
what
love
does
that.
that look like?
I love that. Yeah. All right. This was beautiful. We totally enjoyed being here with you today. We hope that you equally enjoyed this, and we will see you next week. Go check out our Instagram page, guys.